Hey guys, so I just wanted to update you on some of the things I've been thinking about and what's going through my head, and maybe you relate to some of this, maybe you get some insights from it. I have realized that the videos that I plan out when I'm at an energetic middle time of the day don't come out as good as the ones when I'm exhausted at the end of the day when I hike all the way out here to film. So I'm trying to get more spontaneous with things, and I'm also realizing that I spent a lot of the greater part of the past year feeling like I was just waiting for something to happen. And I'd realized that there was no one there and there was no one really doing anything. So I was just waiting for things to happen. And so recently, I feel like I've had this kind of a breakthrough where I've felt this greater sense of freedom that all these things that I'm excited about and want to do have just come in again. And there was always this big thing that I felt like I needed to resolve. And this was one of the biggest, when I get down to it, things holding me back career wise, and things holding me back confidence wise, and things holding me back and feeling like because I was a woman, I couldn't. I wasn't as important as men, and nothing I had to say or do would ever be as important as men. And I have kind of seen how this integrates in, and how the the little things that I do, the little things that just like make me light up, how important those are, and how those kind of there's symbols and how they tie in. And I feel like women sort of naturally want pay attention to little details and making things pretty and stuff. And I remember the when we did a renovation on our house, the contractor, he tried to put on the super masculine front, and he even like chewed tobacco all the time and left bottles of it all around the house for me to take care of and stuff. And when he was around his crew, he was just had this like really strong asshole personality. But he ended up teaching me a lot about painting and gave me a lot of tips because he knew we were running out of money on the project and I had to do all the painting myself to finish it the way we wanted to. But I remember him saying we were planning what sort of windowsills we were gonna have, and he was like, "Yeah, those ladies, they like to have those big ones so they can sit stuff on them." And it was he'd grown up in this sort of like country culture and environment, so he was definitely had that sort of persona, that masculine persona. And so growing up around this, I felt like those little pretty things you want to sit on the windowsill, and the art projects you want to do, and the silly things you're passionate about going and doing are a total waste of time and an inconvenience for other people sometimes. And so I always felt like I wanted to wisen up. And so I would seek out a lot of like masculine personal development people, and kind of got led down a road that going into the whimsy and the imagination of it really started having breakthroughs. And I realized later how misogynistic and I was, and was blaming it on men because I accepted those messages that weren't really necessary at all for me to accept. So that was just something that came up on the trail. Again, this video is just like free flow, just go anywhere we please, unplanned. When I realized, I'm like, there's this part on my car that I need to go and have covered up, and my dad told me not to park on dry grass. And he's like, it might start a fire. And so I realized now I'm like out here on the trail, I'm like, I parked on dry grass. What if I come out and there's this huge like forest fire and and then I'm like, I might die, and I'm like, oh well, whatever. And then my next thought, the one that grabbed me, was like, they will think I'm so silly. I came out here to make a video. What a silly thing to do. What a silly little girl I am coming out here to make a video. And I realized, like, so many things that I want to do and just that I'm passionate about, I'll just like kibosh for other people or being scared of what they might think. And so I've realized a lot lately, those little projects and those little silly feminine things are really powerful, and I realized that none of it has any importance. So it can actually, some of the least important things can lead to the most important things, and it can go full circle. And so I you have complete freedom to go with your inspiration, and the road less traveled is going to be the one that doesn't make any sense, that seems silly to people. And this is completely a fairy tale. And this is the other kind of shocking thing I've been realizing lately, is how I just wanted to be this authentic, honest person so bad all my life. And I've just come to this realization that um the song by Aqua, Barbie Doll, comes to mind, or or Barbie Girl. That, this is like plastic, and it's whatever you imagine it to be. It's all of materialism isn't really real, and you're whatever you imagine yourself to be. And there's this, it to me it seemed like this insanely false thing to try to look a certain way or present myself a certain way. And I even, in high school, I remember dressing up and dressing nice and getting this nauseous feeling, just being like, this isn't me, or just, and now realizing, like, in my stomach, like, very powerful, nauseous feeling about, and like when I dress up and look nice, I feel very uncomfortable in a way, and it's a strange thing. But so recently, instead of being just listening to spiritual teachers like I like to do constantly, I've been studying some celebrities and seeing how they evolved into it, and especially the ones that seem to have this kind of air of mystery and this real, like they really grab your imagination. And I see that there's like a spiritual talent there, even that they're expressing something, and that something stronger is shining through. And that's another thing recently I feel like I've let go of. The spiritual teachers are directly speaking to something, and it's incredibly useful to spend a lot of your life and just go directly into the spiritual teachings, immerse yourself in them, learn the language, the lingo, learn the languages, get familiar with it, and then come back out into the world and you see the same things everywhere. Suddenly you have this sort of, like, there's this sort of opening that happens, and you can see this message coming through everywhere. And you see that you create your reality, and you kind of like level up in a certain way. And it's funny that so many spiritual people start these cults and communes and communities where they want to be surrounded around by spiritual people. And for a time, it's really helpful to get together and have a retreat. Not that I've experienced that, because I've been stuck here all my life, but someday I will. But that in that energy is a real thing. I believe. I don't know if it has to happen within a certain location, because again, location isn't really a thing. Um, but I feel like people feel like they need to have a partner, like a girlfriend or husband or someone who's really deep into spirituality like they are, and they want to surround themselves with spiritual people. And I really felt that strongly not too long ago. And now I realize that that is already the case, that this duality between like awake or more conscious people and unconscious people isn't really there. And I'll find people saying things that are really deep and profound, and I'll find like ways in other people's lives that they're open, that are just incredibly surprising to me, that I can learn something from, or something just clicks. And we're all childlike at heart, and we put on we put on these facades and they turn out not really to be facades. And that was one of the things that I hated so bad, is people acting fake, and celebrities and people acting like they had to put on a show for other people to be accepted. And there's this funny story. My sister used to, when she was really young, early 20s, and she worked at this really fancy resort. It was secluded, and it was this old, I couldn't believe the place. I got to visit her once, and it's just something out of a fairy tale. And so she was in sales and marketing, and we grew up for this fancy thing. So it was an entire like world away from our country upbringing and the way we were brought up to be, sort of to talk like honest and authentic and have a little bit of a accent, not know we had it even. And so she came home to visit us, and she'd changed the way she was speaking, and she started saying dollars as dolars, and I just wanted to wring her neck. It annoyed me so bad. And now this is coming back to me, and I'm realizing that we're all like putting on these characters anyway. And all my life, I was kind of hating myself for having to put on a character, and watching myself interact around different people and being like, I hate the way that person brings this out in me, and that's not who I am. And this person brings out this, and I love that, and not realizing that there wasn't anything behind that that what could be authentic at all. So once you realize and let go of all these things, you realize life is a fairy tale. It's what you make of it. And I remember the ways that it's easy to let ourselves fantasize when we read novels, and especially novels that really, really kind of evoke the imagination, and being a kid and reading Harry Potter or The Lord of the Rings or anything like that. And when you finish the series, there's just these incredible feelings that arise from reading it. And I remember being a kid reading Harry Potter and just wanting so bad to like be that, and to have that, and to have that kind of magic and mystery in life, and wanting that so bad. And I realized, like, at the heart, at the core, that's what we want out of life, is to have that sort of magic. And it already is. And the mundane and the magic wrap into one. And it's just, I wish I could describe. I'll have to do another video because I'm getting so tired and it's so hot. But I was swimming with my daughter today, and she's been listening to a bunch of songs and stuff, and so she yelled out, "I'm ordinary!" And I could tell by the look on her face that she had no idea what ordinary meant. And and so I'm like, "Honey, what do you think ordinary means?" And she said, I think she said happy or something. I tried to explain to her what ordinary meant, but it was just the perfect thing for her to say. And like I was saying about how, people sometimes say things and it's your interpretation of it, and like me finding that to sort of jive with what I was contemplating about, that's what was magical about it. And the other funny thing that happened today was my I haven't been taking care of my lawn very well lately, and there's this one area where I threw a bag of cow manure, and I was supposed to use it for a project, but the summer kind of got away from me and I never did. So there's all this grass growing on the side of it, and I should have weed whacked it, but I was afraid I'd go right through the plastic bag of manure, so I didn't weed whack it. So long story. So there's these really ridiculously tall weeds. And my mom comes over today and I said, "Yeah, I haven't been taking care of my lawn very much." And she's like, "You know what this is, right?" And she points to this really tall weed with yellow flowers. And she's like, "That's evening primrose." And I'm like, "Oh, I never knew that." And she's like, "Yeah, someone just taught me. I never knew either. I always thought it was a weed." And it's like a medicinal plant. And then she points to the other weed next to it and she says, "And this is St. John's wort." And I'm like, "What? Seriously? Like this one place I haven't weed whacked and I'm feeling bad about because I haven't been taking care of my yard and there's two wild medicinal plants just growing there. Like, what?" Like the more you learn about life and the more you get interested in things, the more you engage with life, the less it's like I'm a crappy person because I didn't get the weed whacker out by the bag of cow manure I never used, and you realize, like, I just learned to identify two amazing plants today. And this is kind of where, like, the purpose of the intellect and going together with awakening and realizing meditation and no mind and those states just creates this sense of wonder when you just start to feel this resonance and like there's just magic unfolding for you at every moment. So I'm gonna shut this off and walk back before it gets dark or before I pass out. So I'll talk to you guys again soon.